Hey guys, we're ready to get started here, so find your way in if you can. And you won't bother me, I'll just talk above it all. So, welcome tonight. This one, this is our fifth in a series, and this is frankly the one that I'm most passionate about, have the most, I won't say experience with, the team that's coming up here has the most experience with, and there's a lot of good that we'll get to announce tonight as well. So first of all, I want to start off with the definition of MVP. I don't quite know the crowd. I see a lot of familiar faces, but in case there's some here, I just want to start up at the very top and say, well, what is an MVP? Well, it's shorthand for minimum viable product. And the whole lean startup movement is based around this launch fast and iterate mentality. And the way you do that is you put out an early version of the product that is bare bones, that answers the question you're trying to answer. So hypothesis, if we do X, Y will happen. So how do you test that hypothesis as quickly as possible? You build a minimum viable product. So it's basically an experiment that you actually launch out into the wild, show to consumers, and then you would take data on how they react to the minimum viable product. And it doesn't stop there. The minimum viable product is the minimum. Well, which features do you build next? Well, that's what your data tells you. The consumer actually tells you which things to add on and go next. So rather than build out this 100-step plan that will take 3 years to build out, you break it down into serviceable chunks, a month or 2 months or 2 weeks ideally, and the number of times you can go through that iteration cycle of MVP to another MVP to another MVP, you kind of do this stepwise progression towards perfection of your web-based application. So let me give you an update on Hayseed, and I think it's relevant to the concept of MVPs, and I'll tell you why in a second. So here we are, 7 months old, really 8 months old since we've been incorporated. We've started officially 7 companies. We announced the 8th last night, which I'll give a little more data on. And we've got 2 more that are actually already launched that we just can't quite talk about. So 10 companies in 8 months. 5 of those companies actually have seed capital that have been put on them of $250,000 or more. And when you look at the number of companies that were really seeded, early stage web type companies, it's almost as many as we did all of 2014 just coming from this one building. And so that just shows you how powerful the concept of MVP is, minimum viable product. We look at that in 4-week cycles. So we say, hey, 28 days. How can we get something out in front of the consumer in 28 days? And then here we take it a step further, and we've only violated it once, and I'll tell you why. In 56 days, we need revenue. So concept to revenue in 56 days is really the mentality that we beat everyone up on here. All right, how many people are on the Hayseed team? Stand up. I want to show the crowd how many people are on this team. So we've got Will standing up. He's not even officially on the team anymore. He's got his own business. We've got Caitlin right there who does our marketing. Jim, you're not even on the Hayseed team. You got to sit down. So Brandy, Scott, and Blake, and me. That's all it takes if you practice the concepts we're going to talk about tonight to do things really, really quickly. So Menglin was the first. We cheated there. They came in with a team. We kind of came in as not quite co-founders. They were a little further along and grew their business about 30-fold. They did the majority of the work. We helped a little, laid some groundwork. They're in the process of raising $1 million round. Aptigee. Justin, kind of same thing. We cheated a little bit there. Great co-founder or whatever. He's raised close to $500,000 and projects out that he's going to do about $4 million of revenue next year. And these companies didn't exist last year. Qbowl. Will is running Qbowl for us. It's got some money on the balance sheet. It did get to revenue in the 56 days. Here's the product, here's the marketing, here's the revenue. He's got 50 or so schools on that platform going. Factual has 110,000 Facebook fans. We have absolutely no idea how to make money there. We screwed up. We learned something from that launch. We launched fast. We went to 28 days. We didn't say we need money in 56. So now the thing's floundering. I can't afford to put anyone else on it. So we made a mistake here. Piltdown Outdoor Company. Scott found Trey. Trey's not here tonight. He wanted to be at a craft show. He was selling his backpacks. And we wrapped an e-commerce business around this in 56 days. And we've sold a pack online. He's going up into the right. We're about to go raise a little bit of capital on that business. Trackwire, there's Tyler here, Tyler Getford, founder. He came to us with an idea. We've also violated the 28 and 56 day process here, but not by much. The MVP that we came up with was a little more robust, and we think we needed that in order to get out, but we'll launch something here in January. They've already raised capital. This isn't public, so keep it in the room, but it was a good sizable chunk of capital to let us go hire people and progress forward. OPO events. So this space right here is a wedding venue, and Brandy is running that for us. She's around here somewhere. And literally, what it take us 2 days to build a website, get pay-per-click ads to it. A week later, we've got revenue. So we cheated a little. I mean, the building's 100 years old, but still, you get the concept of what an MVP is. The website's not perfect, but it tells the story, and it does lead gen and all that. So, Gemini. This is probably my favorite of all the companies that we've launched, and really for a personal reason more so than anything else. So last night we took out on Facebook and said, well, what's the MVP strategy for our PR launch on this? Let's post it out to Facebook. And so that's what I did. I wrote an article around what we're trying to accomplish here. And so full disclosure, we're building a technology agency, a consultancy that builds minimum viable products. And it came out of a bunch of research we've been doing over the last 9 months from when Hayseed started. Met with over 100 companies. Believe it or not, there are 100 startups who have figured out how to walk in the old post office and talk to us in the last 7 or 8 months. 3 problems, and I'm not kidding, I don't know that there's a fourth. 3 and only 3 problems that are preventing this ecosystem from absolutely exploding and taking off. Yeah, some of the groundwork has to be laid. We need some networking of it. We need a physical place, and we're starting to get all that here. It's not a good physical place, but it's getting there. This isn't a huge crowd of people. We ought to have 5 times as many of this, but it's getting there. You didn't have this crowd 5 years ago when I started Acumen. So really 3 problems, and they just hit you over the head every single meeting. So first problem is, hey, we need capital. Duh, everybody needs capital. Most of them don't, but yes, there's not enough capital in this ecosystem, and I'm frankly sick of people using that as an excuse. But we're going to try and solve that. We're going to go try and get a seed fund raised, a $10 to $15 million seed fund. Jeff Amaran, my buddy, and I are working on this. We hadn't figured it out yet, just to be honest. We're working our tails off, and we see that as one big bottleneck. The other 2 bottlenecks I think we can start to fix. We can't do it all, but I'm going to start 2 little businesses that start to address this problem. Hopefully 10 more will spring up that do very similar things. There's so much work here to be done. I'll tell you about the other one we're about to start that's not public yet, but you take the customer acquisition skills we used over at Country Outfitter to build 7 million Facebook fans. So it's customer acquisition. Every single company that walks in the door has customer acquisition problems. If they didn't, they'd already be public, right? I mean, they would already be growing. They wouldn't be coming to see us for early stage advice. They wouldn't be a startup anymore. They'd be a very powerful, profitable business that doesn't have time to come to networking events and figure out how to become that thing. So starting an agency to do that. It's not official yet. It's going to be awesome. But tonight we can talk about Gemini. Jim, stand up. So the name's really terrible, Gemini, right? Sit down. You're going to see enough of you, please. Good Lord. But Gemini was the minimum viable product. Blake came up with this, actually, so we'll credit here in a minute. But Gemini was the minimum viable product of how to get a man to a moon. They tested a bunch of things. Every Gemini mission was different. It was to solve a hypothesis, and when you check that off, hey, we can move on to the next thing, and all of a sudden Apollo is up on the moon. So a little bit of NASA, a little bit of Gemini. That's so bad. I can't believe it. I mean, he's a better programmer than he is Brander. Both of them are. But that's our story. So tonight, introduce Gemini Development. We build minimum viable products. We also will work upstream and work for larger companies who are launching new things. We will not work on things, or at least try not to, that have technical debt on it, because you cannot move fast enough, and that's what we do. We launch fast and iterate. We move fast and break things. We get a product out to the people. So guys, come on up. I'm going to introduce you. We'll kind of go from there. First, on my left here, Blake Puryear. Blake's the CTO at Hayseed Ventures. Blake is a computer programmer who can speak business, the rarest of all breeds. So he can speak ones and zeros and dollar signs, and that's pretty hard. He managed, what was it, up to 20 or so folks over at Acumen who are developers, and a bunch of idiots that look like me and talk like me that thought they knew what they wanted to build. So instead of talking directly to Jim, they had to go through Blake here, who would convert languages that don't.
Yeah, none of them are in the audience tonight.
Yeah, none of them. Yeah, I looked around really quick before I called them idiots. But I noticed I said I was myself. But
that almost makes it better.
It didn't, though. And then Jim. So I've been working with Jim Kane here now for really 25 years, if you can count what we did in high school together as work. About 1990, 91, somewhere around there, we launched a bulletin board system called the Laughing Pancreas. It was bad. Yeah, you can laugh. It is funny. And we had people that would dial in, download stuff. It was the bulletin board was really before the internet came around. I mean, the internet, of course, existed, but this is how you dialed in, had an email address, and played online games. So we really worked together. We played Quiz Bowl together in high school. So if there's a geek thing, we've done it together. All this. And so about 10 or so years ago, I'd been trying to recruit Jim up to Fayetteville for 2 or 3 or 4 years, and finally got him to cave. His wife didn't want to come. I think Jim did. We gradually won Wendy over, I believe. But so we ran a few things together that did really well. And then when it came time to start Acumen, Jim was the first employee. It wouldn't have started without him. He was that important. Served as a CTO and really built, in my mind, the best technology to come out of Arkansas in the last decade. And when I say, that's not saying much here, maybe that'll be saying something in another decade. That's the goal of having these meetings. But you couldn't have done it without him. So we're going to talk about a few of the MVPs that we built at Acumen, and talk about how we did it. I mean, let's be clear. We raised $100 million there. We went from 0 to $100 million in revenue in about 3 years. Went from 0 Facebook fans to 7 million Facebook fans in about 3 months. 0 subscribers to 11 million email subscribers in about 6 months. And did a lot of other things. And so let's dive right in. First thing is really Honest Engine. So Country Outfitter, all of our stores were built on this proprietary e-commerce software. The off-the-shelf solutions 6 or 7 years ago were absolutely terrible. You couldn't use them. They didn't plug into Google right. They didn't do a lot of the things you needed to. And so I tasked Jim, very first day, go build Honest Engine.
Yeah, it was much like that. We had been through a couple of iterations even prior to starting Acumen for our shopping cart platform. But I knew as soon as we branched off that we wanted to go beyond what our system at the time could do. So yeah, from the first month I started looking around for a product that would fit, and we wound up using some people that we knew to get a head start. And I think we launched our first store about 4 months after we first acquired the product that we did.
It was either 3 or 4 months. We started on January 1st, 2009, which, by the way, was the absolute worst time in the economy ever. And the first task is, hey, we're losing money, so you got to get this software done quickly. And 3 or 4 months later, we had transitioned our largest store over. It didn't break. It actually raised revenue within a month. And by April of that year, we actually turned a business that was losing $30,000 a month into one that made $30,000 a month of profit. And it was due to that MVP that came out and answered a few crucial questions of really how to plug into Google. That was the main thing we were solving with that. And how to manage 38,000 SKUs from each of these 3 vendors. So it was a fun project. Talk a little bit about Kiva, Jim. So if you've ever been to the Acumen warehouse, a lot of you have. It's pretty neat. We've got these little They're not little. They're 250-pound robots. They're about the size of a suitcase. You don't want to get in front of them. They'll run you over. Automated fulfillment center over there. And Jim and I, see, it works. It's terrible. It's just Blake's.
Okay.
So we went to Boston and designed out this fulfillment system. Jeff Emran was actually in the room when we decided to vote to do this. In hindsight, boy, we had them fooled because we didn't know what we were doing. So we went to Boston, and the first thing we said is we have to have this done by the end of May. And they just chuckled. I mean, this is February. It snowed 3 feet while we were there. And we said, we have to get this done by the end of May. And they said, it takes 15 months to install a Kiva system.
They said, well, we usually plan for about 15 months, and we plan for a team of 10 to 15 people on your end. How many people do you have? And well, it was kind of just me.
Yeah.
But it turned out that they later counted that as an asset. They said, wow, this is great. When we call you and we need to change something, we just talk to you. We don't have to have 2 meetings to figure out how to change anything. So luckily, we were able to plug together some existing software and integrate with their fulfillment system. And it was stuff that I personally had zero experience with.
You learned a whole new language. It was MQ you learned in...
I did learn about commercial queuing products. They're pretty boring, really. Sorry. But that was the only way that they would let us hook up to them. So it was do that or just not do it.
So let's put this in perspective. The previous record to install this Kiva system was 15 months. And usually a team of 10, 12, 15 people, 15 months. Jim did it in 14 weeks. Through this concept of minimum viable product, what are the smallest amount of features that we need to actually get this going? I'm sure it was duct tape and mirrors, right? I mean, there were things you went back and cleaned up.
Oh yeah, it was not necessarily the most fun 14 weeks either, but we did get it done on time, actually ahead of time.
So let's fast forward a little and tell why that was so crucial to the importance of Acumen. Without that one piece of information, Acumen goes bankrupt, and I'm not sitting here. I'm probably working for somebody today or being a doctor, which would be terrible. But we spent all the money. We raised $3 million or so. I went in foolishly to my board meeting and said I'm going to spend $1.6 million on robots. Jeff approved it, so he's dumber than I am. Alan Tatel approved it. You just kind of nodded. You're probably.
I didn't have a vote.
Yeah, you'd have voted for it.
I trusted you.
Yeah, you should. That was your first mistake. So fast forward about 6 months after we install this system, we've literally spent all the money, and I need to go raise more capital. And I get a phone call from Alex Dillard, the CEO of Dillard's Department Stores down in Little Rock. And he says, I hear you have some robots. Can I come see them? I said, yes, sir. I mean, come on, you're Dillard's, please. Why do you care? So he comes up, he looks at them, and he says, we've been working on installing our robots for 15 months now. We've got a team of 20 working on this. So how long did it take you? I said, well, we only had one guy. It took us 14 weeks. And he stopped dead in the middle of the warehouse and he said, holy shit. And so I walked Mr. Dillard back to my office, and I hit Terry in the middle of the walk. I said, I'm about to ask him for money. And so sure enough, that's how we raised our capital, was the fact that Mr. Dillard was impressed at our ability to do minimum viable products. So Blake, you don't get a pass. You get to talk about the next one. So Country Outfitter hits on hard times again. Facebook strategy stops working. We've raised all this money. 90 some odd million dollars. We've built up a big team, and we start to struggle. The story of Acumen is not without its hiccups and pitfalls. And so at the board meeting, my last real good thing I did as CEO is said, we need a growth initiative. And everyone nodded. And I said, well, here's the 4 growth initiatives. They said, you can't do 4 growth initiatives. And I said, you just watch. We're going to do all 4 of them, and I bet you 1 or 2 of these work, and one of them is going to save the company. Neither of y'all were at the board meeting, but this is the honest to God truth. It was me fighting to do 4 things because I knew what we could do on MVP basis. And they said, let's do flash sales. Let's just pick one. We're going to do flash sales. We're not going to do the other 3. The 4 things were flash sales, a content team, a marketplace, and private label booths. So we're going to go to Mexico. We're going to build a journalism content team from scratch. We're going to go source mom and pop brands in the thousands, and we're going to do flash sales. And they thought I was nuts. And so sure enough, we came in January 1st, right after the holidays were over, and we put a rock star, 4 rock stars of the company, one on each of these initiatives. So Blake was the guy on one of them, the marketplace. Well, fast forward to the end, the flash sales initiative didn't work. If we'd have put the whole company on it, we would have bankrupted this thing that raised more money than any company in Arkansas's history that I know of. We'd have bankrupted it. And so what's funny is the 3 things that MVP'd out there actually worked. Blake ran Marketplace for us. Tell us a little bit about that. We actually pulled people off site and did it in the roof of the old post
so we
office.
came up here middle of the hot summer to the upstairs of the OPO and broke out with kind of a crack team of programmers. I was tasked with getting, I think, 500 sellers on the marketplace around like 3 months post-launch. We worked up there for a month and a half or so trying to build out this extremely complicated piece of software that was friendly to mom and pop vendors, people who aren't really used to working with uploading their products. I mean, people who have no idea what Shopify even is. People handcrafting stuff, building birdhouses. So getting all of that information into Honest Engine and sellable. So we built a really cool streamlined product that didn't quite do everything we needed. And Greg Prim came to me and said, hey, we need to launch and go. Here's this piece of software called Knack. Do you think you can do anything with this? So on a Sunday night on my parents' couch, we kind of leaned back and started to work through this and build out our order management and product information system. And I think by that next week or two, we had sellers on the marketplace using it and shipping stuff through it. So even with kind of all of that work front-loaded was still used, I had to look at what's the minimum core set of features that these mom and pop vendors need to be able to sell stuff directly through Country Outfitter.
I mean, there's so many lessons in that. It was hard to learn them without actually being in there, but let me tell you a couple of things I learned. So I pulled the best team, and this marketplace was mine. I brought my team of 10. I said, we're rewinding back 5 years. We're going to do this. I brought Jim over here. Jim got to draft 2 or 3 programmers, his best. We brought our best project manager by a mile. And we brought Caitlin with us, our best young marketer. So we had the team. I mean, we literally, no startup can assemble a team of this caliber of 10 people. And we worked for a month and didn't have anything. We defined the set as tightly as we could, so we thought. And we went to building. And so we used surgeon's cut. Jim's a surgeon, and so he started programming. And we get a month into this thing, and we still don't have what we need. Well, Blake's not a surgeon. He doesn't code. I mean, I don't remember the last line of code Blake's written. I mean, he and I are probably about equal at coding at this point. But Blake's a ninja. So he said, all right, scrap everything. We're not going to build an MVP. We're going to go suck one off the internet, plug it in over here, and then send it out to the people. And like I say, you did that in a week. I mean, you were coming to work for me over here. We were going to leave and do something different. And literally in a week, duplicated the efforts of the best programmer I've ever met and a team of 9. Blake did it in a day. And there's no animosity. It's like, okay, Jim is so happy that Blake solved the problem that he wouldn't. And I'm being hyperbolic on this, but man, you don't have to build something from scratch. You can cheat and build it off the shelf.
And if I remember correctly, I think they're still using Knack
today
with however many.
Yeah, we have 5,000 or so.
Still using both products, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah. The one that you had almost finished had a ton of features to plug into our store to actually make the back end work, and his was really the way the consumer, the end user, would actually come in and upload their knickknacks into the store. So it was a beautiful, elegant solution, and Marketplace is probably our second most profitable thing over at Acumen now. So pretty neat. So let's shift gears a little. Enough about Acumen. I mean, there's lesson after lesson after lesson, and we'll probably tell one of them every time we come together. But the mistakes are the fun parts, though. But let's talk about you specifically, Blake, and then I'll let you kind of elaborate on it. There are 2 mistakes we see when you're building a web app. Number 1 is defining the specs of the MVP incorrectly. Minimum means minimum. I promise you your spec does not have 100 use cases, it has 1. You're literally getting rid of 99 cool things that would be awesome to have to build the one thing that actually matters. So, and the second thing is speed. and we'll talk about that a little bit. So if it takes you define your minimum viable product and it still takes you a year to build it, well, you're in trouble anyway. The internet is way too fast for that. You've already lost. So Blake, tell them how at Acumen, at Payseed, when you consult for people, how you define that the minimum viable product feature set.
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest problems that I see is a lot of times people go in and they're comparing themselves to the Facebooks, to Meerkat, to huge products that have gigantic teams on them. You kind of have to pull that away when you're looking at your MVP and say, what are all the features I can drop out? So look where Facebook started, look where Periscope started, look all the way back to their MVP. Say, if your app revolves around like a dating app or whatever, find the smallest feature set that you could possibly launch with and run with it. If you can ditch users being able to message each other, if you can ditch small things that are extremely time consuming that are kind of nice to haves, even if they're like want to haves, ditch all of that. Really streamline it to the point where you have your core loop of what your app is about, and then launch with that, and then build the features for your user base. Don't build what you think your users are going to want. Start listening to them, start gathering feedback as soon as you launch, and then when you iterate, you're building what your audience actually wants versus what you think they want.
Tyler Gepford can speak to this. It was pretty brutal when we defined the MVP. I mean, he brought this roadmap in that was 19 pages thick, which is awesome. We're probably going to build 18 of those 19 pages at some point. But I mean, like it was like killing babies. It was like, oh, what the heck? You got rid of this feature, and so hopefully we'll prove right. I mean, this is going to be a fun experiment to kind of watch. You guys are going to see a little bit of the inside covers if he'll allow us to tell the story. But pretty neat how we were able to do it and get it done. Jim, from your perspective, talking about when we give you the spec and defining the MVP, tell us how you think about defining the spec and building.
Well, I mean, the strength of the model that we're talking about here, the iterative development model, is that you don't have to know the right answer to everything up front, because in a lot of cases you don't. I know that I don't know exactly what the customer needs when we get started, but so you start with the bare minimum that you know you need, and as you iterate forward, you take what you've learned. It's, what did someone once tell me? You'll never know less than you do right now. So if you can put off some of the decisions that you that we have a tendency to try and make up front, if you can put those off until later, then you save a lot of wasted effort. Time spent developing an application that just turns out to be features that no one even wanted. And I like saving wasted effort a lot.
I've never heard you say that before. You'll never know less today than you.
I can't take credit for it, but it was a really good saying.
That's really, really good. From my perspective, and I'm the marketing guy, every question that I start with, how do you acquire customers? Well, that's great. That's going to be awesome. Oh, that's great. You just built the Taj Mahal in the middle of the desert. Is there a road going to it? And so that's the question I bring to it. And when you look at building an MVP, if you haven't figured out how you're going to get people to it, you shouldn't build it. I don't care how cool it is. You shouldn't build it. So that's one extra question that I add in and build into it. So when we're doing, I keep picking on you, when we were doing the track-wired mocks, I sat and listened. I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. I really enjoy this. And at the end of the day, it's like, how does it plug into Google? How does it plug into Facebook? Is YouTube a viable option? Can we go get influencers to go tweet this out? Can we get Usain Bolt wearing track-wired shirt when he wins the Olympics? I mean, you start thinking through it as a marketer, and you inform back to the MVP. What's the URL structure of this huge track social network? How is that going to plug into Google? And so that is the one step that I think we're very unique in what we're doing at AC and what we're doing at Gemini and what we did at Acumen is we took that extra step to figure out how the MVP plugs into the marketing channels. So I drive you crazy with that sometimes, I would imagine.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Let's talk speed a little bit. So there's this concept of the 10x programmer. Some people say it's a myth. Some people believe in it. I'll fight you to the death and tell you that a Jim Kane, a Brad Ediger, that's it. I only know two of them. And I've worked with, 100 programmers. There's two of them that if you compare an average programmer to a 10x programmer, literally 10 times the work that flows out of that person, there's actually the concept of a net negative developer. Your Aunt Sheila, when you go get her to build your website, she is a net negative developer. She is not going to build. She's going to cost you $10,000, and she's not. The site's not going to make that much. So talk about speed. Talk about how you go through that iteration cycle super quickly.
Well, it really starts with building the minimum required, and I know we keep saying minimum, and that's even in the name of the talk, but really just not spending any more time than necessary on stuff that isn't absolutely needed to get the product out the door and customers in the door. So, anyone who's used one of my applications knows that I cut a lot of corners on the administrative user interface. Sorry. So
yes, you do.
Yes, it's being, I think you even used the word ruthless. It's being ruthless about what features you're willing to give up in service of speed.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Blake, keep us on schedule. So Blake is the consummate project manager. He was running probably 8 or 10 things at once over at Acumen. I know he's running 8 or 10 things at once here because you just see him popping up every day. So how, tell him a little bit about the tools that you use day to day as the project manager, how they plug into Jim, how they plug into the stakeholder that's building it, and then how you keep it on schedule, maybe.
Yeah. So I think one of the big tools that I rely on kind of in the requirements gathering stage really are the concept of kind of user interviews and user personas. So asking kind of if you took this feature away, do you still have your core functionality? If you add this feature in, will it slow us down? Asking kind of dumb questions as you're gathering requirements, and then building personas around who your users are. So describing them even down to the level of this is their age, gender, this is what they do for fun. It lets you get inside of the head of the people who are going to be using your product. And if you can keep that kind of posted up somewhere as you're building, it lets you always fall back to, okay, is Jenny going to really use this feature, or is this going to kind of lay somewhere in the application and never get used? The actual software tools I use, I live and die by Trello. I think it's one of the best project tools around. I won't shut up about it. I mean, John thinks Trello is a place where ideas go to die.
Are you a paid or an unpaid individual?
Unpaid, 100%.
Okay.
They have written about me, but I'm unpaid.
Yeah.
So with Trello, I keep it extremely streamlined. I have a board per project. Trello works in the format of having a board, and then you have vertical lanes for anything you want to put in them. The way I use it for an idea lane, a this needs to get done lane, a this is what I'm working on, and a this is finished lane. I move my cards back and forth through those to keep track of where I am. And it instantly gives a visual picture to the stakeholder where everything they're talking is kind of in flux, where it's sitting out as the project kind of moves and evolves. For scheduling, meet every week and talk about what you're building. If you let things go on for 3 weeks, you may be going down some hole that you were not expecting. You may end up building something completely different for your MVP that you expected. It's super important that you meet weekly and discuss exactly what you've built.
And show things.
Yes,
and
show.
This is not a big reveal. This is not The Price is Right. I mean, we don't want a big reveal here. I don't want to be wowed when the thing comes out. No, that doesn't work.
No, show your gritty interfaces. Show stuff that's unstyled, unfinished, because it helps the whole team kind of understand where you are. Are we on track? Can we really hit this date?
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I get nervous when I haven't shown a client a visible work product in a week or so, because I know deep down in my soul that when they see it, they're going to say, wow, that's great, but wait, what is this thing? And it's going to be something that I put a lot of love into, and it's going in the trash. Oh, I hate that part.
Make the logo bigger is the big complaint for a designer. Yours is exactly that.
I
I just built something awesome, and you're not going to use it?
That doesn't work like it should.
Yeah.
So, frequent communication, and it goes both ways. Your developer needs to be able to get access to you probably more than weekly, like daily.
Yeah.
So my last question, then we're going to open it up to the crowd here. So on the MVP, it's so funny that people that walk in here with half a developer and say, well, great, what's your launch plan? What platform are you going to use? So we're going to build an Android app, we're going to build an iPhone app, we're going to build a web app, and there's this new system that no one uses, and we got to have functionality there. And Blake, how do you, Jim? Blake, how do you pick the platform? Jim, how do you pick which system to code it in?
So I like using your personas. Look where your user base is going to live. If they are trendy, like forward-thinking people who are going to be on Product Hunt or TechCrunch every day, go for iOS. If they're kind of a standard, regular person, consider something like a platform like Ionic, where you can develop on a single place and deploy to both platforms at once. I was surprised. I mean, Jim found out on a project that we're working on that we had 2-to-1 Android to iOS users.
At least, yeah.
Which is strange to me.
Never seen it before.
The way I think about it is I'm always using my iPhone, and everybody has an iPhone. But when you kind of enlarge your scope out to the general American populace, you're going to see a much larger Android user base than you would expect.
Yeah, when you're in the upper middle class kind of setting like we are in tonight, most of us have iPhones. I'm maybe one of 10% of people in the room with an Android device. But in the general populace, they're working on a lower end, some free care pediatric type clinic type setting. Android is.
Yeah,
I was shocked. Just from
to be honest, Android won a while ago.
I know. You know what? Y'all hadn't figured it out yet.
Share of the mobile phone market worldwide.
Yeah. So Jim, what do you choose to build things in? And this is a little bit in the weeds, but you can literally write in every language. What's your favorite and why?
I mean, it's very much personal preference for me. It's languages that I'm comfortable with. I've been developing in Ruby and the Ruby on Rails framework for nearly 10 years, so I know my way around that pretty well. I know it enough to know all of its strengths and a lot of its weaknesses. That's the main one that I choose. I have been investigating others. There are a couple of new frameworks that aren't anything like that. It really depends on what you have available to you.
And everything you use is free and open source, or are you a big Microsoft fan?
Man, that's like a softball.
Yeah.
To their credit, Microsoft has been open sourcing a lot of their languages and platforms lately, so if that's something that someone's already comfortable with, that's great. When I was learning a lot, their stuff was never free, so I didn't have access to it.
Yeah. And so we're actually building TrackWired on Microsoft. I think we're 8 out of 9 or whatever, how many things we've built, not on it, but it's going well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's going fine. It's on the Azure platform, which was very surprising to me, and I was very against it up front. But then, kind of once I saw the guy that was writing it and behind it, I said, okay, run with it. We'll work and adapt to it.
So 100 ways we can go. Just open it up, ask us what you want, and we'll act like we know what we're talking about.
No change there.
Yeah. Questions? Yes, sir.
A question for Jen.
Yes. You get that dollar.
Do you have any experience with there's one new one that is like Meteor, have you heard that one?
I have brief experience. Personally, for some reason, my mind does not do well with JavaScript.
No.
Completely honest. JavaScript frameworks, I haven't gotten into those. The framework that I'm looking at right now is actually based on Elixir, which is itself based on another language, which is built on top of about a 30-year-old telecommunications platform. I know that's really technical, but the upshot is that it's unbelievably reliable, somewhere in the realm of 7 nines. So I have heard good things about Meteor. I know that it scales well. I just haven't had the opportunity to build anything with it yet.
Seems like Morgan has worked on Meteor.
Yeah, I've heard good stuff about it.
Yeah.
As far as building things rapidly, I know it's extremely quick to build like a chat app in it. I mean, I've done a couple tutorials on that. But as far as like long-term viability goes, I'm not sure.
Or let's say for like a market, if you're building a marketplace, then there's other things that you can use like Magento.
Yeah, less of a framework, more of a platform really, but yes, something like that.
So if you're going e-com, from experience, pick the one that wins. Shopify's already won. That's not to say something can't come along and knock it off, but if you look at the support, if you're going to go roll your own, right, without a developer or whatever, man, go with the one that has all the apps and the plugins. And we built several things on Shopify. Magento's good too, don't get me wrong, but be sure to weigh. You got BigCommerce, Magento, Shopify.
I might actually debate you on that last statement, but it works.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah. What else?
Do you ever use, and for anybody blank, maybe this is for you in managing some of the projects, like unbounced pages or other applications that help you build rapid landing pages to do A/B split testing and things?
Yeah. Unbounce is one. There's one called Landy that's pretty new
Landy?
that I've just started looking into that actually does machine learning on landing pages. that you can
It's
start tracking
sick.
their like location,
Machine learning.
gender, age, and then it will tune the landing page to kind of who it's expecting is going to land on there. And then if they convert, it'll mark that down as a plus, and then it will start marketing that landing page to the people it sees in that category.
So you've got a launch rock type thing that's probably maybe the industry. I mean, the things like that.
Yeah.
You can build stuff quick. And then A/B testing, Optimizely is it. So Jonathan Carlsmith used to work with us. He used Optimizely for A/B testing over at Acumen. He's now at a little company called Apple. He couldn't work for a good company. And so he literally manages A/B testing by himself at apple.com through Optimizely. I learned that over Christmas. He came down and told us that. So if anyone knows Jonathan, reach out to him, send him a Facebook message, and tell him to move back to Fayetteville. Is that a fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah,
And
tell him Apple sucks.
I'll throw out one note of just
Jonathan.
almost caution on Optimizely that using a tool like that, Optimizely makes it super easy, but it doesn't absolve you of the need to understand some of the statistics that go into it because it can still lie to you. We actually, I think we did run into that some, and you can find a couple of blog posts about this, about their earlier methods for declaring a winner for an A/B test could easily get skewed. And I know we saw that behavior.
Oh yeah,
on
it used
our
to
tests.
say, you'd be like 5 minutes into an experiment, it says this thing is one, and you know if you didn't, I mean,
You've had
taught,
16 visitors or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
I taught a session of statistics at the university. I knew it was inaccurate, but I mean, most are going to go, oh yeah, we've got a winner. Click. And
It's a great tool just as long as you understand the limitations of it and limitations of statistics, which are almost like physical in some cases. Just
And I
what
think
you
another
can
thing with
get away with.
Optimizely too is making sure you don't conflate your tests. So don't run multiple tests on the same page for a
Do you
button.
know anything
and
about
check
that,
out.
Blake?
Yeah,
oh jeez.
So just test one variable at a time.
exactly. Test one
variable.
variable at a time. You could do it on different pages, but just make sure they are not connected. And they're
You can do multivariate testing where you got to be really careful with it, and you got to have a website the size of Country Outfitter that gets 18 million page views in a month in order to get significance on anything. We were univariate. Jonathan over at Apple.com probably does some multivariate stuff. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm guessing
Yeah.
that you're not Apple. Next question. Yes, sir.
Can you guys talk briefly about what the MVP concept looks like outside of maybe the kind of the tech world, or for example, international kind of import-export? If you're doing retail, it's going to take time to ship things. You're not making huge changes to your product. You just have one product. What does that look like in that realm with making those
That's
changes?
a great question. So Country Outfitter says we're going to build private label boots, for instance. And I'll walk this way, and if I go the wrong direction, pull me back to where you want me, okay? So we design 200 pairs of boots, and we get a prototype of each of them, but we haven't committed to full production run. Show the 200 pairs of boots to 7 million people. Which ones do you like the best? The cream rises to the top. We make the top 10. You save a lot of money. On that. You've got pre-sales kind of stuff. I just got back from Park City. There were 12, 13 e-commerce CEOs out there. And when we did this 2 or 3 or 4 years ago on Country Outfitter, it seemed like we were the only ones thinking this way. Every single company there had some wrinkle in the supply chain where they pre-forecasted demand off of the internet. And it was just like, okay, that's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. Oh wait, no, that is the most brilliant thing ever. So yes, the concept of MVP is really how you cheat, right? How you cheat your supply chain, how do you cheat your inventory cycle, how do you cheat your cash flow statement, and startups, by their very necessity, when they don't have a lot of capital, they have to cheat. When you ask each of these people, there's a lingerie maker in LA, there's a guy down in Austin, and I asked them both, I said, how did you come up with these innovations? They said, we had to, we didn't have any money. So necessity is the mother of invention, and we did the same thing on our inventory strategy at Acumen, which they scrapped and spent way too much money on, but it got us, was that close, or did you have a different, okay. So you have to think in terms of MVP and think in terms of rapid prototyping, and sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Hey, Con Quesos. They opened a place over on Martin Luther King, and Jeff told me we needed to eat them next time, and we'll do it. But I bet you Omar's over there doing MVP after MVP after MVP on his taco after taco after taco after taco. The ones that don't sell, I bet you that sucker gets rid of it. And I bet he's got an advantage over every restaurant around because he's been through Jeff's training, through Carol's training, through listening to me. And so, no, I have a real passion for figuring that out too and hacking the system. So, great question. What else? Yes, sir.
Is there ever like a situation where MVP is not a good idea, or does it work for pretty much like everything?
Medical devices?
Yeah. So there's a classic article. I believe Marissa Mayer wrote this. So she's now Yahoo CEO, but she wrote it in her early days. I've got a crush on her. My wife's over there smiling, and so she's on my list of the 3 people from whatever. And then we saw her in Vail, and I was like, I can't go talk to her. And anyway, how did we get there? So Marissa wrote this piece, love her, wrote this piece on the difference between Google and Apple. And it's very profound. Google operates the way we're describing today. Google says you launch fast and iterate. Facebook, move fast and break things, right? Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn, says if you're not embarrassed by the beta version, you didn't launch it fast enough. So those 3 clear proponents of this, and they've gotten a ton of things around them. You think Steve Jobs launches fast and iterates? Heck no, it took him a decade to get the iPad, and it was freaking perfect when it came out. So yeah, there's 2 ways of doing it. There's a real expensive way if you're one of the largest companies in the world and the most profitable companies in the world. Sometimes you spend a little more time than MVP if it's crucial. Medical devices would be a great one. That's why we don't build medical devices. And just to be frank, I don't think this startup scene should be investing in things that take $10 million to get off the ground. We don't have time for that. So we need to focus on what our natural resources are. Quick hitter, moving fast. Hey, we've got great data structures with Walmart and Axiom. We've got logistics with Tyson, Walmart, JB Hunt. We've got now e-commerce experience spinning out of Acumen. We've obviously got retail experience. So anyway, I digress, but yes, there are times when you can't do MVP, unfortunately. You won't see me building one of those, though. Keep them coming. Yes, sir.
I've launched a few small businesses, services, and some small retail. And the next thing I want to do is e-commerce. What are the three? I know I don't want to limit you to 3, but what are the 3 most important things to launching successful?
Don't build it in Drupal.
Hey, that is number 1. So Nate from Mingwin. Mingwin's a great story and how they did it. And if you haven't met these guys, you need to know them. They're from Atlanta and they've moved up here and have really embraced the system. But what was your question again? That was too awesome and too true.
To have a successful e-commerce, I know anything can fail. I've launched plenty of failures.
Sure.
But what are the 3 most important things to focus on when you're launching your first real e-commerce?
Number 1, don't sell other people's stuff.
Okay.
Period. It's really hard. And I built a really big business selling other people's stuff that didn't make any money. Like, we're talking nothing.
What's the name?
It's called Country Outfitter. It employs 200 people. And so you look up and you're like, crap, we're doing 9 figures of revenue. We're not making any money. Well, how do you margin up? So you're either delaying that conversation. All the startups, I told you there were 13 e-commerce companies out in Park City. Every single one of them were what I call branded e-commerce, meaning they have built their own stuff. Now that is a business, my friends. So you take something that spits off 80% gross margin that Amazon can't sell. By the way, Amazon's already won. I don't know if you guys know this. Walmart didn't know it. Amazon's already won, by the way. Walmart's really good, but Amazon's already won. We should be scared about that, and Walmart has some opportunity to catch up on that. But branded e-commerce is hard because you're competing against non-branded. You're competing against Amazon and Zappos and Walmart and Nordstrom's and Dillard's, and you just can't win that game, at least long term. So number 1, focus on margins. Number 2, focus on something that Amazon can't sell unless you're selling it to them. That's pretty brilliant. Build your own stuff and sell it through Amazon and let them distribute it. That's awesome. And then number 3, you got to know e-commerce is hard. It is the hardest thing you can possibly get into, and I swore in 2009 when I sold my stake in my last e-commerce business I would never do e-commerce again. And then I did e-commerce with Acumen. And now here I sit with 7 of them are e-commerce companies, 7 of the things we've launched. So it's really, really hard. It's a lot of fun though. I mean, you get physical product and you get to fulfill it. And what did you guys say about e-com? I mean,
Covered it pretty well,
Yeah.
really. You just make sure that you have your customer acquisition strategy lined up, which is what I thought you would have said for number one was customer acquisition.
don't start e-commerce unless you've done your keyword research and see that you're absolute crap for competitors, or you've got a Facebook niche you can go do, and you can't pay for it. Facebook's too expensive now, so you've got to figure out how to cheat somehow. I wouldn't start an e-commerce company unless I knew how to cheat. And we've got a bunch of cheats around here. Without an unfair advantage, we wouldn't start these.
Well, and I think, like Nathan did say, is platform choices in there. I don't think it's top 3, but it's definitely a major consideration on something like Shopify instead of going with Drupal or something else like that. Look for the popular platforms. 98%
of websites should be built on WordPress, content-wise. Likewise, 98% of e-commerce sites should be probably built on Shopify today. And I can't believe I said that out
I
loud.
would say, I
Yeah,
would say
can't
one
believe
more
it's WordPress.
consideration there is you would be like user experience,
Yeah.
which is one of the most crucial things you can think about.
It has to be differentiated, right? It has to be different. Yeah. What else? Oh, keep going. I like it.
We got one more.
Yeah.
So the building your website, that's something that I've failed miserably, tried a few times, just suck at it. If you don't have a programmer working for you, you don't know one that you can afford, are there any companies out there that you can hire to build you a less than cheap website?
Yeah. So we'll do it for money. We're really good at taking money and doing it. And if your ad is really, really, really good, I mean, talking top 1%, we'll do it as a co-founder, as some equity. We're moved away a little bit from that because it's a challenging thing. We learned a lot as we've done a few of those. Are you a student?
No, just graduated.
Okay, so act like you're a student. Go hang out at the university, but go over to the engineering department and make a friend. Because they can't do, a lot of those engineers, like Jim and I couldn't build what we built without each other. There's just no way. I can't program and he definitely can't business, and I definitely can't program. So it's this cycle. I told, every time I go to the university, and Carol's heard this 100 times, and she nods vigorously a lot of times when I say it. Sometimes she doesn't. I think she agrees with this one, though. It takes 2 people to start a business. It takes a business mind who thinks about the customer and thinks about marketing and thinks about financing and all that. And then it takes a technologist. So if you're building a physical product, it can be an engineer. If you're building whatever. So it takes the product guy, and for everything we build, our product is usually a website. So find a geek and a business person, marry up, and run with it. Yeah, that is it. And don't be afraid to give away your company. The studies show that single founders, and I don't mean single like not married, I mean like single one-person founding teams fail way more regularly than 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is the right number. 5 is too many. You can occasionally do it, and I've seen Minglin's making it work with a bunch of guys in a room, but it's a challenging thing at that. So go find a buddy, and don't worry about equity, because if you're one guy and you own 100% of nothing, exactly. Yeah. Keep them coming. Yes, sir.
So we've been, from the music business standpoint, trying to take a MVP, concept and how do you apply it to bands, how do you apply it to tours, festivals, and things like that. You hit on it earlier about event space and stuff like that. What are some of the things that you guys would like to see in events and festivals throughout the Northwest Arkansas community that you think would be beneficial?
More of them. I mean, that's just that's it. I mean, how do we? So I'm self-serving here. I want to attract great talent to Northwest Arkansas, and things like the AMP that
I'm in
didn't.
the same position from the music business standpoint.
Yeah.
I want to attract bands and things like that. Say, hey, instead of living in Nashville or Austin, because it all blends together now.
Yeah, it does. I don't have the answer to that other than do more of it, because it's really cool. And how can we support you and get them here?
Yeah, and very timely. Companies like Pipeline, if you followed that, I'm sure you have. It's not easy to stay in that business and make any money. So, yeah, whatever, like you said, just more. Mm-hmm. You need more businesses, even though plenty of them will fail. Enough of them ought to succeed to build something that sustains itself.
What else? Brady, how much time we have?
About 5 minutes.
All right, perfect. So we got 10 minutes. Like, go ahead.
So when you're building out a landing page and you're trying to launch with a call to action that measures something important, how far do you go with like a call to action that measures the intent to buy something without like pissing off customers and they realize you don't actually have the boots that they want to buy or whatever it is? Do you have any thoughts around how far you take a call to
That
action?
brings up a story.
Tell him the Brian Sage test, or
So-
I think it was Sage. Yeah.
Did you pay him to ask that question?
No, but this is
No,
a,
I wrestle with some of that too, and so I get a lot of questions like, "Is that right to do that?" And so,
I actually walked in. The end of the story is I walked in like, "What are you thinking?" I actually yelled at Brian for this, but it was so brilliant.
So
honestly.
a programmer designer that we both worked with in common at the time, whose name shall remain anonymous, but it's
Brian
Brian.
Sage. Yeah.
But it's Brian.
Yeah.
Brian wanted to know he wanted to know how valuable it would be to put a certain UI element on one of our sites, and I think it was a filter bar. Or
Shot by
something
color,
like that.
wasn't it? Or
Something similar
Yeah.
to that, but
something
he-
hard to build and easy to.
Yeah, at the time, something that he knew we didn't have time to build. So, being a man of questionable morals, he decided to open up Photoshop and make a fake. And he literally made a fake toolbar, and he built a test with Optimizely that would display the toolbar, and if you clicked on it, it just went away.
yeah. But it
So,
measured the number of clicks.
He
on it.
wanted to know the number of clicks, which, going back to what you measure in Optimizely and how reliable it is, if that's what you're measuring, the number of clicks, it's really reliable. If you're trying to measure whether showing that leads to a
Conversion, yeah.
conversion, which is 5 steps down your funnel,
Right.
it's not going to happen. You're never going to get statistically significant results from that. But all he cared about was, do people click on it when they see it? Are they interested in it? And the answer was that they were. So, and he had the answer within a day or two.
Yeah, super fast.
So despite John's yelling, that actually worked out well, and we continue to tell that story.
Oh, I yelled until he showed me the results, and I was like, "Oh, that's the most brilliant thing I've ever seen." I mean, it literally, it was like, I can be persuaded with the application.
I don't think it really hurt the user experience on the
It
site
didn't.
that much.
It didn't. That's what's good about it. Yeah.
So in your mind, there's no like moral tension of it's.
I don't
okay.
think that we didn't take anyone's money without giving them a product,
Right,
which would be
right.
the worst thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is a small lie in service of. It's kind of like how a sociologist would ask a person questions,
Yeah.
but with an ulterior motive in almost every case.
Yeah, sure.
The question is kind of vague on purpose, and that's how it was for us in that case. And we needed the answer really quickly.
Yeah. That's great. Thank
It's
you.
a limited thing, but I feel
There's
okay about
places
that.
I would use that going
Yeah.
forward. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. I mean, you got to have that in your trick, and it was brilliant, and it it justified building out probably a 2 or 3 month project that we couldn't. It could have been a 2-day project. We did dedicate the resources. It was probably a 3-month project that we kept pushing down, and Brian was frustrated. And he said, "I'm going to prove to you suckers that this is worth doing." He did it, and we did it, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Well, and if you're talking about like dropping them to a product that you don't have yet,
Yeah.
even
or even
pushing
like a
them,
buy, like
Sure.
they click in to buy something. I've heard like sometimes you even get as far as entering credit card information, and then a pop up says, "Oh,
Yeah, just
we're-
sold out.
yeah, I feel like credit card
yeah.
information is a little
Yeah,
too
credit
far.
card. I'm not
is
going
that-
that far, but you can. I mean, what's the abandoned cart rate on the site, right? So if
Yeah.
they put a product in the cart, 28% of the time they end up buying. So you could. I mean, geez, if they put it in the cart and then
You don't
try
have
to
to
buy,
take it that
then you
You
can.
don't have to take it that
Yeah,
far.
Well,
yeah.
and you can send them to a sold out product page with an email capture that says, "Let me know when it's back in stock,"
Yeah.
and start engaging from there.
Yeah, and here's a big discount.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience.
interest.
You know,
Awesome.
yeah, that's how you fix the moral thing or whatever. It's by giving them something.
if there is a world."
Yeah, it's terrible. What else? Probably 1 or 2 more. Eric.
What's an MVP customer acquisition strategy for like a brick and mortar retail store that's moving to e-commerce?
Yeah, Warby Parker, Bonobos, pop-up shop type thing. So we'll talk about both of those guys. And Warby Parker is a really cool team. We've gotten to talk to them a lot. Anton is actually on my board. It was one of the early angels in Warby. So Neil and that crew, they built these super tiny kiosk-y type presences. Bonobos this is even more brilliant, I think. When you look at $1 per square foot from a Bonobos store as compared to a J. Crew store, it's not even close. And so what Bonobos does is a small guide shop, and they're off the beaten path. So if they're in New York, they're going to be up in the meatpacking district and not in the middle of Fifth Avenue. And they're also going to have very limited inventory. So you walk in and they've got, let's say they've got 9 different kinds of pants, 9 different colors of pants, and 30 different sizes of pants. Well, they got one of each of those. They don't matrix it out. So instead of having $1 million of inventory, they have $10,000 of inventory. I mean, we're talking, when you matrix size, color, and product, I mean, you're talking a lot of money in inventory. So what Bonobos does is you come in and you see the color. All right, I want the red one. All right, I like this this style pant. Let me try that on. Okay, that doesn't fit. Do you give me a size 33? Okay, that fits. And so then they iPad it out. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And so they are able to scale out much higher dollars per square foot. They're able to go out and complete this omni-channel thing. Is it as good as walking out with it? No, it's not even close. But it's 80 for the 20, and it's worked very, very, very well for them. So those are 2 good examples. Country Outfitter, and I don't think I'm giving away farm here, but I saw this pretty incredible 18-wheeler concept that we're going to roll out. Weber Grills has done one of these, and so imagine an 18-wheeler going to a festival and popping open, and it's like Bonobos style except in boots. We've got size 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and we've got one in size 8 of every single product that we have, and you don't matrix them again. They all fit in a portable shop. And so you drive pay-per-click traffic for a week. Hey, we're going to be in your area. Sign up for the pop-up shop. You show up there. And wait, where do you drive the pop-up shop to? Well, you look at your data online and you say, all right, Houston's the place. Wait, where in Houston? Okay, the Woodlands in Houston. All right, who's in Woodlands? All right, here's our customers that have purchased in the past who need to meet us. Great. Here's the prospects that look like those people. You go get them on Facebook. And so you just create this hyper-targeted, internet-based store that shows up in an 18-wheeler and disappears in the course of the night. So that's how I look at retail and see some interesting things there. Close? Was that good?
Yeah, that's good.
All right. Last question. All right.
If you are phase 1, 28 days, and revenue at 56, is the time between the 2 beta testing, or do you just put it out there freely? And because we're trying to build something, but we picked a select group of people to beta test initially, versus just soft launching it to everyone. Is there an advantage or disadvantage to either way?
It depends. I mean, you can have a selection bias on your beta testers. If your beta testers are your family, they're going to love it and they're going to hug you and go, "This is great," except it's not. So now we usually just throw it out there. Now, some people might disagree with me, but I've never kind of done a limited beta. In fact, what I'll do is actually pay money to send people there, which is nuts. I'm not talking thousands. I'm talking dozens of dollars to get feedback on it. So you get it fast, right? I mean, you're working against time, and if you put an MVP out and you wait 3 months to get results from it, man, you're 3 months away. How much money did you waste in that 3 months? Probably more than the dozens of dollars that you could go out to Facebook and do a targeted ad and roll 1,000 targeted users through.
Yeah, as far as tools go for that kind of testing, I'm assuming you did a limited beta because you wanted people to give you high quality feedback.
Yes.
Yep.
There are services out there that you can hire to test your website or I'm
yes.
assuming your web application.
What's the name of that?
It's usertesting.com.
Yep. Usertesting.com. Oh, it's so good.
And these are people who usually work from home and they will record themselves. And they're really good at just letting the stream of consciousness out of their heads as they're browsing your site. You give them a list of things you want them to do, and they try to do it, and they tell you how they feel, and you can watch their screen activity, and that is pretty valuable feedback, and it's
horrifying feedback.
I was about to say humbling, but horrifying is probably a pretty word too.
As a guy that, we worked hard on this product, and you're doing millions of dollars through it, and you spin it out, and the simplest thing, like, I just want a pair of brown boots. I can't get them. like, oh, it's just a dagger when you watch it.
I've never yelled at the screen before, but I found myself yelling at the screen a few
We're
times.
idiots,
So-
yeah. Usertesting.com. I'm glad you remembered that. That's so good.
And they have a service called Peak that's free. I believe it like resets every month. You can get a free user test from that. It's called Peak by User Testing.
Huh. There you go. All right, that's it. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. I have a public service announcement.
Oh yeah, Haley has something. I forgot.